This is okay. I'm gonna need a second here to get the link. Share. Copy link and okay. So good evening, Happy New Year, and it's past the leave taking, so I guess we're getting ready for Nativity on the old calendar and Theophany on the new. So there's nothing really to use as a greeting except Happy New Year. Let me just all right. I've got this link. I'm going to send it to people. I'll be with you in just 1 second. There. Okay. And there. Okay. All right. Joseph. I'm glad to hear that, Joseph. What was the was there a particular impetus in your interest in it? I mean, I think just about any Orthodox person in the West would find it helpful to kind of orient oneself vis-a-vis Roman Catholicism, but certainly it's not the most important book published, but I think it's a really helpful one. One of the things I wanted to do this evening is actually look at some of the kind of reviews that people left on Amazon. And Joseph, if you are so inspired, I would be very grateful if you were able to go and leave a review on Amazon. At very least, maybe a thumbs up over there. That would help a lot. So I would be interested too, just to get your feedback on what it was that inspired your interest in the book. So, oh dear, there you go. I guess I'll do that. I've got a strange setup here. That's not helpful. There you go. All right. Yeah, so anyway, if you have any feedback on the book, I'd be interested to hear it. So actually, yeah, maybe I will start there. I have something from Saint Silouan the Athonite that I wanted to read. There's really not too much else. I haven't gotten any questions, which isn't too unusual, unfortunately. But I will read some of the reviews. Thank you. Good. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's history is something that is greatly undervalued, and obviously being Orthodox, and we are we are great fans of history, but I think we still don't spend enough time with it. I'm not gonna do well with the quote, but there was a quote from C.S. Lewis about reading the old books. I can't recall if it was in his introduction to On the Incarnation by St. Athanasius. It might have been, or it might have been in maybe the introduction to Screwtape Letters. I can't recall, but something along the lines of if a person is to read books, that reading the old books is much more important, and we are, I think, trapped in the modern world, and increasingly so, and people don't understand how much they're kind of in the matrix. And one of the only ways that we have, outside of religious life, spiritual life, is to read read history, and so yeah, I don't know how a faithful Roman Catholic could read Two Paths without being really affected by it. Bonsoir, Sarah. How do you say? Kalos Irthas in Greek. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. And good evening, Heart of the Orthodox Christian. So yeah, we were just discussing Two Paths, and I was going to read some of the reviews. And again, anyone, I'll probably say this a few times. I'll try to keep it brief, but very quickly, I guess I don't do too many asks, but one of them, if you've read Two Paths and are so inspired and could leave a review at Amazon, I would be most grateful. Speaking of which, I was going to go ahead and read a couple of those until some more people get into the live stream. If there are any questions, for what it's worth, I'll be here for a little bit, as long as you want to hang out. I do have a little bit from St. Silouan that I wanted to read. I've been told I should say less, and I don't disagree, so I'm going to work on that. It's hard to not say One thing I guess I will mention as well, having just referred to a quote from C.S. Lewis, is that I have revisited my doctoral dissertation over Christmas, which was quite wonderful. For those of you who don't know, I studied in Greece I lived there for 8 years, and I was connected to the university for 11. And my doctoral dissertation was really kind of on comparative theology dissertation on C.S. Lewis. My professor, Dr. Dimitrios Tselingidis, is a specialist in two areas. One is the relationship of kind of the comparative theology with Western confessions. In particular, he wrote a book on Luther, and his other area of focus is on iconography. And I started with him because I thought I was going to do something with iconology, and I ended up doing something with comparative theology, which honestly was really good. And I think the dissertation should have been published long ago. I have lots of people that keep coming up to me and asking to see it, and God willing, 2021 will be the year that the world gets to see my doctoral dissertation on C.S. Lewis and the Church Fathers, which was the most wonderful topic, really. C.S. Lewis is a wonderful writer, and obviously reading the Fathers is even better. But Lewis, as really the apologist par excellence of the 20th century, has a lot to teach about engaging with the world, and both creatively as well as theologically. And so, yeah, we'll see how that's going to all end up turning out. But stay tuned to follow the ongoing saga of my turning my doctoral dissertation into a book. Oh, Lord of mercy. Well, get well soon, heart of the Orthodox Christian. I don't know what your name is. Thank you, Joseph. I will read it, if I may, live here in just a minute. So if anyone else wants to go and write a review on Amazon, I will gladly read it to you here. And if not this tonight, we'll do it next month. So yeah, so I guess that's what's been going on in my world, except for just, Nativity and the New Year. And yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm going to go ahead and refresh the page. Let's see how quickly. I don't know if it has to go through a review process. All right, well, I'll go ahead and read the three that are there. Some of these folks had commented on the two videos that I produced on the book. I think actually, if anyone wants to see, well, you can go and read the comments. I guess they say don't read the comments, but on those videos, I was astonished to find that I have been branded, I guess. It seems like I've been branded by the left and the right, so I guess maybe I'm doing something decent, at least. Hopefully walking the narrow path, the golden path. But someone was not at all happy that I published the book and talked about, the Roman Catholic Church in any way that wasn't positive. So anyway, I guess it takes all types, and online, everyone's a target. So Lord have mercy on all of us. So I'll go to read these from Donata. Phenomenal in helping me complete conversion to Orthodoxy. It's been very gratifying to get these because, yeah, my gut feeling was that this is a book that especially Roman Catholics could really be aided by, and getting feedback like this is encouraging, because I don't sell many copies of books generally. Orthodox book publishing is, the market's very small, and there are lots of good books, and I'm sure I could do better marketing and so on. But I was interested actually to see, I was out on the St. Vladimir's Seminary Press website a few days ago, and noticed that a lot of, I guess especially their academic publishing, they actually require that people find funding to publish the book. So which I'm sure isn't too unusual in the academic world, but it means that the cost of producing the book is probably greater than what they're going to end up making. But anyway, two paths. I've been contemplating conversion to Eastern Orthodoxy for over 2 years. I'm a trad Catholic, the Latin Mass type. I've lost count on how many books I've read about Eastern Orthodoxy, along with much prayer. This book has sealed the deal for me. If any Catholic should feel uneasy about converting, read this. It answers everything about your concerns with the papacy and Peter. After being Catholic for over 40 years, I feel like a blindfold has been removed. The papacy is a sham. Great job, probably the best I've read. Thank you again, Donata. And then from Fred, who both these folks posted on YouTube. So thank you, Fred, again, if you're out there. The title of his review is Two Paths Gives Catholics Much to Consider. This was a wonderful book, but it was a tough read for me since I'm Catholic. It's given me much to consider, particularly the manner in which Pope Pius IX pushed through the infallibility doctrine during Vatican I. During this time of turmoil in the Catholic Church, this book will give Catholics much to consider. And then the third one, I'm going to refresh the page here and see if yours has gotten up there, Joseph. Bookish 1, highly recommended. I can't add much more praise than what has been written in the other reviews. I've been looking for this book since I heard a prominent Eastern Orthodox apologist talk about it 2 years ago, but it was too expensive until now. I'm so glad Protecting Veil reprinted it at a decent price. It's very easy to read, and while not too scholarly, it is well researched and will help anybody who's struggling, as I did, with leaving Roman Catholicism for Orthodoxy. So, thanks to God. That's really good to hear these stories. Joseph, your review has already come in, so thank you so much. This is the latest hot off the press review from Joseph Rami. Great historical book. I enjoyed the deep history the book goes into. Popes have been condemned by councils and not just by their own private opinions. Papal infallibility also was resisted by Roman Catholics until becoming dogma. And I think even, how many Roman Catholics actually believe it? I don't know. Probably the pious do, but I would guess that most academics and people who know theology and church history have a problem with it, but find a way to justify it, I guess, or justify their remain Roman Catholic. Great book. It's a short read and goes over all the Roman Catholic points and how Orthodoxy sees them. So thank you again, Joseph, so much. You asked about Archbishop Alexander Golitsyn. Yeah, that's a good question. I think I've published all the ones that I have, but I need to double check that. I do have some that I've held on to, which will come out at a certain point. I need to figure out when to release the final episode. But I save one episode, essentially. Remington, thank you. That's a great name. I don't know if you remember the show back in the 80s, I guess, Remington Steele, but that's the only other Remington that I've encountered, but that's a great name. Joseph, I like how the book shows that Rome tries to link the Old Testament to the papacy. I think the book answered the question of Peter not being a prime minister. Yeah. Yeah, there's so much. I think, all of the underhanded things that were required to make it work are, that was probably for me the biggest revelation. If something stinks, then there's probably a reason it stinks. And there was a lot that went on behind closed doors that was very bad. And then certainly realizing how few, it was definitely not a half, maybe a third of Roman Catholic bishops actually agreed to the infallibility doctrine. But because of the way they essentially is kind of like an electoral college thing where certain parts of the Roman Catholic world had way more bishops than they should have had representing. Anyway, not to get political, because I think I don't know what I think about the electoral college, but it's kind of similar. How about that? So that's the latest with Two Paths. It's sold decently. I've had some repeat orders, which has been good. I do hope to still go through the book a little bit more chapter by chapter. So eventually those videos will get released. I'm going to try a new format here in God willing the next month so look for that. Essentially, rather than just cutting up the videos in, I guess, reverse order of what people like Joe Rogan do, which is he releases the long video and then he chops them up into clips. I've been doing the reverse of that. I'm going to try releasing the full one and then releasing clips. We'll see how that works, but I'm going to try to make it a little bit more interactive and have the interviewee available for comment for Q&A. So I'd like to move to a kind of a situation where I'm doing that once a month, and then I'm doing this. So maybe that'll happen on the 15th of every month. Probably won't be able to pull it together this month, but maybe that you might want to pencil that in, February 15th, or it'll probably be the Monday, maybe near that. But yeah, so that will be good to try something new. Good evening, Mrs. Jess Horst, and hello, Stephanie. Stephanie says, reading Two Paths now. I'm Protestant and researching both the Catholic and Orthodox churches. My son converted to Catholicism about 5 years ago. I'm enjoying your book. Glad to hear it. Yeah, well, please keep us in the loop. And if I can be useful somehow, I do these Q&As once a month. For what they're worth. Sometimes I get questions in advance, usually not. I started this out as a private thing for patrons, but I tried a public one a few times, and it turned out very, very well. It was very positive. So I thought, well, why don't I go ahead and open it up? And I do give patrons priority if they have questions, but they usually don't. So I'm happy to do my best to answer questions if people have them. Yeah. And when you're finished with the book, Stephanie, if you have anything you want to share about your experience of reading it, or if you enjoyed it, as I mentioned earlier in the live stream, please leave a review on Amazon. It would help a lot, for sure. Hello, Ambrose. Good to hear you. Thanks for being here. Any books or videos on the liturgy of St. James or Zosima chant that you take an interest in? No, not that I can think of. Just the classic Zosima chant CDs that I bought a while ago when they first came out in the 90s from Valam. If you know, why did St. Herman Brotherhood and Platina change from ROCOR to Serbian Orthodox? That's a long story. I guess it's so far away now that from the time that it happened that especially converts wouldn't necessarily know the history. So for those of you who don't know, there's this wonderful monastery in Platina, California, which is about 5 hours north of San Francisco. And there was this great man, Father Seraphim Rose, who founded the monastery with a monk, with a layman at the time. They were both laymen, Father Herman, and they went up and lived a very ascetic life. And Father Seraphim died much too young, age 48, I believe, in 1982. And as I understand it, I guess don't quote me exactly, but I'm pretty sure this is the canonical story. Soon after Father Seraphim passed away in 1982, Father Herman, there was a group out in California who were interested in becoming Orthodox. They wanted to come into Orthodoxy as a group, and the ROCOR bishops didn't didn't want to take them in as a group. This happened a number of times in the 80s. The other big one was with the Antiochians and Father Peter Gilquist and that group, and they did come in largely as communities. And you see, in one case, the Rocor bishops didn't let them come in that way, which I guess these are pastoral decisions. There were problems both ways, probably, and I think an argument could certainly be made that the wiser route was to take in individuals rather than full parishes. Because if you bring in a whole parish of converts, how are they going to understand what Orthodoxy is? So Metropolitan Philip of the Antiochians had a great zeal for evangelism and wanted to bring in as many converts as he could. And God bless him and his zeal. God will obviously be the judge, but many people have their orthodoxy they kind of owe their orthodoxy to Metropolitan Philip. So, but Father Herman, who kind of took over after Father Seraphim passed away, that's not really true. They had kind of I think Father Seraphim was the spiritual father, I believe, of the monastery, and Father Herman, I believe, was the abbot. Without Father Seraphim there, as I understand it, and it actually may have been written in the biography, the official biography from Father Damascene, I can't quite recall, but Father Herman decided to leave Rocor and find a bishop that would take in all this group of these converts that wanted to come in as communities. It started out as the Holy Order of Mans. It was kind of I think they would probably all say that had cult-like properties for sure. They came into Orthodoxy as the Christ the Savior Brotherhood. They did wonderful things. It was full of wonderful people, wonderful communities, very community-oriented, but problematic, in the sense that they came in with a certain baggage, and finally, it was just a few years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, I think this Christ Savior Brotherhood did officially disband, but by then most of the people had joined other communities. Father Herman, when he brought them in, I think he brought them into like an old calendars group, a really problematic one too. There are really problematic ones and less problematic ones. They're all problematic, but some are definitely better than others. This one was highly problematic, and so after a decade, 15 years, something like that, kind of in the desert, they were kind of a renegade monastery, doing wonderful work, translations works. The Brotherhood would go to Russia, go to Serbia, made lots of connections, Romania. They did wonderful work, and they still do. But I think the Brotherhood just didn't like that they were pariahs in Orthodoxy. They had to find an apologetic for what they were doing when it really wasn't necessary, because they could just go back to the canonical Orthodox Church. So that's what ended up happening. And Abbot Gerasim was made the abbot at some point. I don't know exactly when in that story, but I believe it was under him that the Brotherhood went to the Serbs. I don't know if Rocor didn't want them back, or if they just decided they needed a fresh start. I'm not sure. So that's the short version. I'm sure there was a lot more to it, but I believe most of that's true. Russell Snow, I enjoy your videos. Where can I find the full interviews? That's something I'm working on, Russell. I was just mentioning that I may be releasing future interviews, at least some of them, live as the whole interview with a Q&A. I'm thinking about doing that. So stay tuned. If you aren't on my newsletter, please go to protectingveil.com and sign up for the newsletter. I do not send out very many. I need to be better about that. But increasingly, I'm going to try to get people to do that so that I can let you know when something like the entire interview is going to be available. I'd also like to make them available as audio podcasts. So that's all in the works. I'm just one person, and I need to probably need to get some help, honestly, so that I can get more of these things done more quickly. But that's definitely planned. The question is, will the archived full interviews be available to the public at large, or if they might only be for patrons? So that's something I'm trying to figure out. But let's see. Ambrose, what are you reading now? What am I reading now? Well, as I mentioned earlier, in the live stream, over the Christmas break and New Year's break, I reread my doctoral dissertation, which was on C.S. Lewis, comparative study of his theology, in particular his anthropology and cosmology, in light of patristic cosmology and anthropology, and hopefully it's just it's not just narcissism. I don't know if everyone just really likes the things that they write, but it's aged well. I wrote it over a decade ago, and I'm very pleased with it. It needs some work, certainly some polishing, but I was very pleased to see that I'm happy with how it turned out, and that I would be at peace about publishing it, because I definitely have perfectionist tendencies, and I am my own worst critic. So I was reading that. That's the long answer to your question. And I need to read Edith Humphrey's book on C.S. Lewis, which I have not read yet, to my shame. I was kind of putting it off so that I could read it in light of my own work. That's the danger with waiting to publish things. I wrote my book. I mean, I'm not sure when Dr. Humphrey wrote her book, but I'm guessing I probably wrote mine before her. I wrote it. I defended it, the doctoral dissertation, in 2007. So anyway, it looks like, from what I can tell from what I've read of her book, we don't actually hit too many of the same themes. So that's good. That's fortunate. So that outside of Orthodox books, there's a book called A Pattern Language on architecture and urban planning. It's also it's very philosophical, and I would say kind of borders on the theological. It's a remarkable book. If you ever get the chance to look at it, got it here somewhere. But Christopher Alexander is a very interesting person. I describe it as kind of like the book on architecture that Wendell Berry would have written if he had written a book on architecture. So, Michael Falsetto, greetings. Just popping in, have to leave now, but we'll watch recording. Your videos have been very important to me in my journey towards Orthodoxy. God bless you in your continued effort in producing content. Thank you, Michael. Yeah, please pray for me. It is lonely work, and honestly, this is, I really look forward to the Q&As. It's like once a month I actually get to connect in a more substantial way. I try to do that in the comment section, but it's it's, it is what it is. It's not as personal, certainly. Obviously, I'm sorry I can't do this face to face with each of you, but this works pretty well. It's certainly the next best thing to doing I guess a full Zoom with everybody. But maybe we'll try to do that sometime. That'd be cool. So yeah, Elizabeth Grace, this book coming out is perfect timing. I still need to get my hands on it, but I have recently been needing to define why I'm Orthodox and Roman Catholic, both for myself and others. Why I'm Orthodox. So Elizabeth, are you Orthodox or Roman Catholic? I couldn't make out from your post, but I'm glad that the timing's good. Yeah, it was hard to find before, and mine has a prettier cover than the previous. The current edition I think is more attractive than the former. So, and it's also been heavily edited. There are a lot of good things about it, I think, that have made it a stronger publication. So, thanks to God. Hello, Jerome. Good to hear from you. Thanks for being here. Thanks to God. Well, I owe you a response, so I will. I did hear from you. I was off the grid for a little while over the holidays, and I'm only kind of now catching up, which is why the Q&A is a week later. So for those of you who are not aware, which probably most of you, I do try to do this once a month on the last Monday of each month, so at 9 o'clock. So, Stephanie, thank you. I will. Are there any resources on the Orthodox views regarding Marian apparitions? What is the Orthodox view regarding Mary's role for the believer? Stephanie, yes, there is a resource that I actually came across a few days ago. I think someone on Facebook asked this question, and there was a link to it. I believe the article was on orthodoxinfo.com. If I can find it here quickly, I will maybe post it. But it's good. It's good. It asks very probing questions about the apparitions, and I think Father Seraphim Rose talks about them. I believe it's been a while since I've read Orthodoxy and Religion in the Future, but I believe he talks about it in there. I guess the short version is that, and I haven't looked at these personally, so I can't speak to the apparitions, but the content of the apparitions is so it's lacking, I guess. So the question is, if these are real appearances of the Mother of God, like to what end are they? Why did she appear? And the things that she is purported to have said and so on don't seem to provide a great deal of kind of substance, I guess. So let me see if I can find that really quickly. It might be in my history. Yeah. So I think this is the one. I'll stick it in the comments here. If you don't know orthodoxinfo.com, it's a very, very good site. Tons of articles, called, in a lot of ways, one of the best repositories online. Joseph the Just One. What is the Orthodox view regarding Mary's role for the believer, Stephanie? That's a big question. I don't know. I don't know the Roman Catholic teaching really well. There is a book written by Saint John Maximovich on the Mother of God, which I can recommend. I believe it's published by Saint Herman Press in California. But I mean, obviously, the biggest, theologically, the biggest point about Mary is that she gave the second person of the Holy Trinity flesh in Christ, in the person of Christ, Jesus Christ, and so that was the most important thing theologically. But then, of course, we also believe that she was born without without sin, not in the Roman Catholic understanding, but she didn't commit sin. So she was a normal human, but she was sinless, and obviously was a virgin until until she died. So she is in a lot of ways as Christ was the recapitulation of fallen Adam. So Mary is the recapitulation of Eve through her obedience to Christ and to God. So yeah, and then of course she intercedes for us, and then there are lots of kind of mystical ways that there's a great love for Mary in Orthodoxy, and in particular in Orthodox monasticism. The monks on Mount Athos, they sing hymns to her almost every day. She plays a very large role, and Protestants have a very. This is one of the things that when I became Orthodox, that I realized that the Protestant attack on Mary is very shallow, and there are certainly positions taken by Roman Catholics that are really problematic, and in the Orthodox would agree in the criticism of those things, but we would say the Protestants threw the baby out with the bathwater, and these are really internal mysteries. That's why I said, like, theologically, there are these points that you can make, but the deeper importance of Mary is only comes to one can understand it through experience. So Joseph, St. Herman Press has some good books by St. Theophylact of Oakrid on the Gospels. Yeah, is that I know St. John Chrysostom, or Chrysostom Press, published his commentary. And I think I noticed actually that St. Herman's do some of the epistles, maybe. I know the Gospels are published by Chrysostom Press, but. Sarah Hodges, do you have a good source for the Proto-Evangelion of James? I'm assuming one source would be a mega volume in the huge pre-Nicene tome, but I was wondering if any other resources. That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know of one, but I would guess. Yeah, I would guess that the Catholics. I'm sure the Catholics have. Whether it's the what is it called? Ancient Christian Writers series, or they're different translations done by some Catholic groups and some Protestant groups. So yeah, but I don't know. I have it in Greek. I think I've only read it in Greek. So David, thank you so much. Just finished the Massive Biography of Father Seraphim. It is really great. May we all never lose our zeal for Orthodoxy. Amen. It is really great. And a couple of people have posted in the comment section of videos, and I'm afraid I haven't been able to go back to find those comments. So if any of you commented lamenting, maybe it was last month's Q&A, I can't recall, lamenting the fact that Father Seraphim Rose's biography is out of print. I did find it yesterday, maybe today. I think it was yesterday. At least it appears to be available on the St. Tikhon's Monastery Press website. So if you go out there, I think for about $28, you can buy a copy of the Father Seraphim Rose biography, which, as I understand it, is out of print and is hard to find. So if anyone's interested, St. Tikhon's Monastery Press. Amazon, Sarah, Amazon has 3 different commentators, but none appear to be Orthodox. So it's commentary on the Proto-Evangelion of James, or it's translations of it? Russell, I do not. I do not. Joseph, didn't Father Seraphim Rose have a book on man before the fall? I wish that book comes back into print. Yes. Yeah, he has a book on it's like a compilation of a bunch of his writings, put together posthumously, I believe. It's been a while since it came out, but yeah, it's good. It's good. It's another. I'm not sure what's happening over at St. Herman's. I know that they have a lot of books, and obviously they also they're in church a lot. So they're amazing. I mean, they have, I don't know, 50, 100, I don't know, between 50 and 100 books, I'd guess, that they've published. And as a small publisher, I know how difficult it is to do that, and then to keep them in print as well. It's not easy. So my hope with, especially with the Father Seraphim biography, is that they are they're doing some revisions to it. Maybe there's some added stuff, but Russell, my priest is very into prison ministry. Want to start a community of Orthodox men to receive Orthodox prisoners when they get out. That's a great idea, Russell. I've thought of that as well. So, do you know any men that might join such a house? Do you mean Orthodox, like single men? Is that what you're trying to find out? And also, which part of the country? I guess it wouldn't matter, maybe necessarily too much, but there are maybe better parts of the country as far as people that might be involved in that. But that's a really great thing. And I actually did do an interview with Father Stephen. It's been a while. Been a couple years now since I did the interview with the head of the Orthodox prison ministry, OPM, and they did a little conference that I went to, and I did an interview with him. And I was very impressed by him and by the work that they're doing, and I think it's really important work, and definitely the kind of thing that we should be involved in. So I'm glad that you're doing that. You're welcome, Stephanie. Timothy, be careful though with Orthodox info, some old calendar schismatic stuff there too. It's huge. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm not too shocked that to hear that. The person who runs it is a a really, really great gentleman, and he did spend some time in the desert with the old calendarists, and so I don't know if he just hasn't taken it down, or if it's some things. I mean, they say things that are some things that are probably useful, and the problem is there's, just because someone says something that's true doesn't mean that they're right in all the things that they say. So it might have been something like that. Certainly for someone coming into Orthodoxy, it can be at best a distraction, and at worst, a temptation. So I thank you, Timothy, for your caveat, and I will. Yeah, I'd be interested to. I won't ask you to post links, but if you want to send them to me, things that are particularly concerning to you, I'd be interested to see them, I guess. But yeah, the Orthodox internet. Yeah, that's a big question. Actually, there was an article. I don't know if anyone read it at Rule of Faith, ruleoffaith.org, which is a very fine new online theological journal, peer reviewed, which is really cool, and it's very well done. Anyway, one of the editors in chief, Father John Cox, published an article on there about it deals with a fair amount with this question of orthodoxy and the internet and stuff. So anyway, I'd hope to read it and all the way through. I read about halfway through and comment on it tonight, but I have not managed to do that. So maybe I will get to do that next month. But one does have to be careful on the internet, obviously. And for those of you who are looking into Orthodoxy, it's hard. It's hard. I've said it many times. I said it yesterday again. It's one of my soapboxes. It's really hard becoming Orthodox in the West, in America in particular, because we have a canonical issue with overlapping jurisdictions, which is not supposed to happen. And then you've got the internet, of course, is a new thing. When I first became Orthodox, thanks to God, the internet did not, it existed, but it was not what it is today. And it was a lot less distracting. And now it's a double-edged sword. People find Orthodoxy, obviously, and that's great. And obviously, it's been a blessing for me to be able to get interviews out to people. But one has to be careful. So anyway, that's a long riff on Timothy's comment. But thank you, Timothy, for mentioning that. Joseph the Just, David says, it's called Genesis, Creation, and Early Man. Yes, thank you. Ridiculously expensive out of print. You can find it as a PDF on archive.org. Yes. Marina, there was an apparition in Egypt in 1968 where thousands saw her, and my grandma was one of those who saw her. Egypt was going through a difficult time, and it was very comforting to see her. Yeah. I think my experience is that generally the Orthodox, are very slow to make judgments one way or the other, and that's true of the doctrinal development in the church. The doctrines of the church were almost pretty much all came out of reactions to heresies. It's a much more humble approach and a much more patient approach. I think, and this is going back to kind of looking at Western Christianity and Orthodoxy, there's so many things that are different, about the way the Orthodox live and approach Scripture and approach spiritual life. The idea that somehow there's going to be a union is it's very, very naive. Yeah, it's not going to happen. And people that it's a good desire. It's a good desire, and we should desire it. This is what Christ wanted. He wanted unity, and that's what he came to bring. And we're good at messing things up, and we've messed things up since the very beginning. And God will continue to be merciful with us, because that's his nature. But I don't want to sound overly negative, but if you understand what Orthodoxy is, then the idea that union is anywhere close is it's just not possible to think that. So, David Watts, all these modern day apparitions seem really sketchy to me. I'm not disagreeing with you, David. Yes, the Theotokos is referred to as the ladder. To go more deeply into that, if you want to read the, especially the Akathist, she's referred to in all sorts of ways. And then, of course, there are lots of figurines of the Theotokos in the Old Testament. So it's a very deep topic in question. Kind of depends, as with many things in Orthodoxy, and really just in Christianity. I mean, St. Paul says this, there are things that are for those inside the faith. He essentially says this, that not everything is meant to be spoken about with those on the outside, because it's a mystery. It's a mysterious thing, and God reveals these things to people when they're able to receive them. Marina asks David, but what else, for instance, could this apparition be if thousands saw her? We are too sinful, and David responds, we are too sinful in modern day to serve any visitations. In my opinion. Yeah, that's good. Everything should probably be, just about everything should be followed by, in my opinion. But that should be both ways, You're right to say that, David. But nor, on the other side, nor should we be saying, those who want to say, yes, this was a divine, this was from God. Like, we need to be humble both ways. And actually, the thing I found a passage from St. Silouan that I was going to read to you eventually, about humility. So, but yeah, it's not our place certainly to judge one way or the other. But we can ask questions certainly, and there's reasons to be to question it for sure. Ambrose, bring back the beard. It comes and goes. Marina, we are sinful, sure, but there are lots of individuals, such as many monks and hermits, who strive for righteousness and achieve a level of holiness where God permits them to see saints. Yes. Russell, the Mary thing was an issue in my conversion. In a good way or in a bad way? Was it a stumbling block for you, or was it something that attracted you to Orthodoxy, Russell? Dean Barker, just decided 2 days ago to become Orthodox. Any advice? Hold on tight, Dean. Hold on tight. Thanks be to God. Thanks be to God. That's wonderful. And I encourage you to, yeah, I'm being a little bit facetious, but uh, it is a roller coaster. Um, um, Advice, patience, um, faithfulness to steadfastness, faithfulness to the original call. Um, Obviously, becoming Orthodox isn't the same as becoming a monk or getting married, but it is a sacrament. Obviously, it's two huge sacraments. So in a lot of ways, it is the same, and in some ways, you could say I would say it's the biggest. It's the biggest decision of your life. So make sure that you approach it, that way, as the biggest decision of your life, and and make the commitment, the same kind of commitment that you would to a spouse or to God in the monastic tonsure. It's something that you can't really walk away from. It's not like, just moving from Lutheranism to Anglicanism or Catholicism or something. So yeah, I would encourage you to take your time. And one thing I tell inquirers is to not become Orthodox until you can say with conviction that you believe that the Orthodox Church is the Church of Christ established at Pentecost, that it has the fullness of the faith, the fullness of Holy Scripture, of the Holy Spirit, in that anything that you don't understand or any problems that you might have are not problems with the church, but they are problems with your own understanding. And I think if you can become Orthodox with that faith, then the evil one will have much less to work with. Because I've seen so many people come into Orthodoxy, and probably people go into marriages the same way, kind of, well, I'm going to change this person, or I'm 80% there, but there's 20%, but 80% like is enough. And the evil one's going to work on the 20%. If there are questions, that's the place where there are going to be issues. So I would say there's no rush. I think, God willing, you have a priest that you trust, and that can guide you. But I wouldn't rush the process. Yeah, that's probably enough to keep you going for a while. But I'm glad to hear about your decision to become Orthodox. So may God continue to bless your steps. Ambrose, in response to Dean, humble yourself, stand firm, and beware of the flaming darts of the adversary. Yeah, essentially, that's the short version. It's good. Russell Snow, we have a blessing from Bishop Peter for a mission. I'm not a very good Orthodox, but hopefully Christ is interested in it. Yes, I'm sure that Christ is interested in your desire to reach out to those who are suffering in a lot of ways, not worse than anyone else, but in specific ways. And so I'm always really glad to hear folks doing that. Like I said, I think the Orthodox prison ministry is really important. And I think there are, the more ways we can find to serve our brothers, the world around us, the better. I think that really is the example of Christian culture, and it's easy to get distracted by other things when, like, if we aren't following Christ's precepts in the Gospels, then, like, what are we doing? I think it's really, really important. Orthodox, we need to read Scripture, and we need to take Christ's word seriously, and not explain them away or think that they don't apply somehow, because I think they do apply all the time, and I think we just don't take them seriously. Myself being the first to admit it, so I know that I don't, and God have mercy on me. Russell, as a former Southern Baptist, it was a stumbling block. I embrace the church teaching, but I have to constantly repent of latent Protestantism. Yes. Well, you can't deal with with things that you don't know. What do they talk about? The known knowns, the known unknowns, and the unknown knowns, and then the unknown unknowns, or something. Was it Donald Rumsfeld? It's good that you know. Knowing, being aware of that latent Protestantism is a hugely important, thing. I can't remember who said it. St. Macarius, one of the Desert Fathers, said something like, "It was a greater miracle to see one's own sin than to raise the dead." And obviously, latent Protestantism isn't a sin per se, but it is important because one is going to be greatly, greatly hindered in the spiritual life if you don't deal with it. And yeah. Well, the Mother of God. Going back to that, to my what I said to Dean. If one has the confidence that the church is teaching is right, even if one doesn't understand it, or maybe even, there's a part of you that doesn't, you are uncomfortable with it. Like, that's okay. Like, but what's not okay is thinking that you're right and that the church is wrong. That's not gonna. It's not a good foundation to build a relationship on and to grow. One really has to have that foundation of trust and love. And that's true throughout, it's obviously true with marriage and monasticism. There has to be a good relationship between the monk and the abbot, the community. There has to be trust and love, and you can't get around that because you can't have obedience without that. And this is something we've seen, unfortunately, become an issue with. Obedience is really important, and it's important in marriage, it's important in monasticism, it's important in parish life. And then you just kind of, Russell, I don't know how long you've been Orthodox, but may God continue to give you the answers, answer your concerns, and may the Mother of God inspire you and to understanding. I'm sure, it will come. That's, obviously what we're doing right now is very, very weird, where I'm live streaming around the world. You go back, 50 years, gosh, only 20 or 30 years, this obviously wasn't possible. We're just in a weird spot where this is how people discover Orthodoxy, right? A normal way would be you go into a church, and as Bishop Callisto said, when he walked into the church in London for the first time at age 16 or 17, he was young. It was empty, but there was a service, but he felt like the church was full. And Father Seraphim Rose kind of had a similar experience when he walked into the church in San Francisco and felt like he for the first time in his life, he was home, whatever home meant. he'd never experienced home before. And so that's how one learns Orthodoxy, right? That ultimately that's all this discussion, all the conversation, all the reading, whatever, which is obviously a problem, right now with the churches as they are in some places being closed. Apparently in Greece, I haven't been following too much, but apparently it's really scandalous, really bad situation there. Unfortunately, the churches are largely closed, or maybe completely closed. So, Lord have mercy. But God loves us all. God realizes what the situation is, and he provides other ways, I guess, and he will fulfill what is lacking. And Dean, with the unfortunate Moscow-Constantinople schism, how should I pick what jurisdiction to be under? Should I be a factor, or should I just go to the nearest Orthodox church? Nearest church is Greek Orthodox, 5 minutes. I have an Antiochian parish, 30 minutes away, and a rural core, an hour away. Dean, that's a good question. And does it matter? I mean, I guess you're probably going to get different answers, but all of the sober-minded people that I trust have said that this is something that's going to pass. It's not a theological issue. There are certainly problems, and one could parse them out theologically, and I don't want to make light of it or say that it doesn't matter, because it does. But on the parish level, I don't think so. I think the most important thing, what I would do is the following. Figure out which of those parishes you want to go to. Which is going to make the most sense. If the Greek church, if you're more likely to go to services because the Greek church is closer, and you're going to actually be able to be a part of the community, then the Greek church would be fine. It depends too. It depends on the Greek church. So I would encourage you to go visit all 3 of those parishes, meet with the priests, pray. Obviously during this period, ask God for discernment as to which community you should be in. But I would base all those things on spiritual principles, not on things that you read online. I would encourage you not to engage online about this, because you aren't going to find peace. You aren't going to find an answer, says the guy online. But probably 9 times out of 10, on good Orthodox forums, the answer is ask your priest. Well, what that means essentially is, don't think you're going to find an answer online. So your answer is in your local parish. Some of the greatest priests that I know are in the Greek Archdiocese in America. They are they have the most experience. They understand the tradition the best. They have connections to Mount Athos. Elder Ephraim of recent beloved memory, who passed away, a living saint, probably will be canonized, started 20 monasteries in America. He was under the ecumenical patriarch when he died. It was not an issue for him. So if it's not an issue for arguably the holiest man of the last, 15, 20 years, I don't think it needs to be an issue for you. Um, that said, you may go to the Greek church and be like, oh, I don't feel welcome, or I don't feel like um, I connect with a priest or something. So I would encourage you to visit the Antiochian church and the Rokor church as well. Um, there are great parishes that are Antiochian and Rokor. Father Josiah Trenum obviously is with the Antiochians, and he's a very good man. I came in with the Antiochians for what it's worth. I will always be grateful to Metropolitan Philip. He had, he did things that I was not super happy with, but I'm not a bishop. He was the one making the calls, and God bless him. May God, I'm sure God will be merciful to him for his shortcomings, because he did a lot of good. He loved the church, and he wanted to see the church grow. And so the Antiochians have great people. The Greeks have great people. There are great people in Rokor as well, for sure. Honestly, every Orthodox jurisdiction in America, the Serbs are wonderful, wonderful people in the OCA. Again, speaking of holy people, Archbishop Dimitri of the OCA was likely a saint and will hopefully be canonized. He was a great man who did great work for the church, and but yeah, find your peace offline. I don't want to get deep into church politics, but schism is a big deal. Dean, yeah, like I said, I'm not saying it's not a big deal. But unless you can look into the future, and I have my opinions as to, who's in the right and who's in the wrong. But um, Mount Athos, the monks at Mount Athos, if you think the ecumenical patriarch was wrong, then you have to ask, well, why have the monks? What does that mean for the monks of Mount Athos? What does it mean for all of the pious Greeks that remain under him? If you think the Russian patriarch was wrong, what does that mean for all the pious monks at Valam and the faithful? Like there are deeply, deeply committed people on both sides. So, until you understand Orthodoxy, until you this is just a distraction. The schism is just a distraction for you, and like I said, you shouldn't focus on it, or on try to find answers online. The answer is, the question you should be asking is where does God want me to go, and where am I going to be able to grow spiritually, and that's going to be in your local community. It's not going to be online. Russell says, I was intellectually converted on the internet. My spiritual conversion has taken a lot longer. I've been baptized 2 years. Okay, so you are Orthodox. Yeah, probably. I don't know your story. We haven't met, so I can't say anything about your situation. Um, like I said, I would have encouraged you back then to have taken your time. I'm glad that you're still around and still want to be Orthodox. So thanks be to God. I do encourage people to take their time. Um, it's not going to work. The spiritual life does not work without patience. and it does not work without humility, and it does not work without obedience. And those are just, they're foundational principles, the way we were created, and what the fall means in us. And Christ shows, Christ shows us the way. He's obedient to his Father, even to death on the cross. And he was patient and long-suffering and humble and obedient. And when one becomes Orthodox, those are the things that one should be really focusing on, because our culture is so counter to that. And we come in with theological baggage, but we also come in with cultural baggage that we don't understand, and we're swimming in. I use this analogy all the time, probably too much, but honestly, I don't think I can use it too much, because we are in a matrix that we do not comprehend, that is affecting us in ways that we don't understand. And the greatest blessing for me after becoming Orthodox was that very soon afterwards, I moved to Greece and lived there for 8 years. And I came back in a lot of ways inoculated. I've been back now for quite a while, and it's easy to slip back into the ways of American life. But the ways of American life are problematic. They are spiritually toxic, and this is why I say it's so hard for a person to become Orthodox in America, because we don't see the matrix, and we find ways to justify a lot of things, and it takes us a long time, especially if we come into a parish that is convert. There's a lot of great converts, a lot of great people, but it's just really hard if everyone around you is the same as you, or maybe a few years ahead of you, or whatever, on the path. Where's the influence? Where are the people to help you see your blind spots when everyone has the same blind spot? So, anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. So encouragement. I encourage you, Russell, to keep on keeping on. I'm glad that you're back. In the internet, like you said, you were converted through the internet. It's a great tool. It's a great tool to start, but you're going to grow in your local parish. It's not going to happen on the internet. So once you find Orthodoxy, go find a priest that you love and that you can be obedient to, and that you trust. I mean, these are people that you need to trust, and also don't. When you do that, another thing I'll say is, and this is the other difficulty with being in America, sometimes you only have one parish near you, right? Or maybe two. And one maybe is very ethnic or whatever. And go and visit other parishes. Go, if you can, go visit a monastery. Go have in-person, community with Orthodox people. If you can go to a conference, go and meet and talk to as many people in the flesh as you can. And then certainly if you have the opportunity, I encourage everyone to go and spend as much time in an Orthodox country as possible. That will help a lot. That will help a lot. But the next best thing you can do locally is go and visit other churches. I've seen cult of personalities develop in small mission parishes. Orthodoxy is, the priest is orthodoxy to those people. And it makes sense. And I'm not even saying, it's not always the case at all, probably ever the case that the priest, maybe on occasion, the priest has a power trip or something. But I think that's the exception and not the rule. But the problem is that the priest, again, doesn't see, as all of us, we all have our blind spots. The priest doesn't necessarily see his blind spots, and the evil one will use them. And maybe it's the priest is too gentle or too that's probably too pastoral. That's rare. I think it'd be hard to be too pastoral, but it could be a thing that seems positive. So yeah, go and visit other communities and make as many connections with other groups, so you have a better sense of like the full picture of Orthodoxy, because your local parish, it is where your spiritual life will be. But you can you can go to a monastery and confess there and build a relationship there with the monks, or the nuns, and that, God has blessed us with Elder Ephraim and his 20 monasteries that he left, with other very good monasteries. If you have any questions about monasteries, you want to send me an email, I can give you my opinion on a specific monastery. There are some problematic monasteries, but pretty much they're all schismatic and not like not talking about the EP Russia schism. I'm talking about like really schismatic, like old calendars groups that are highly problematic. But Lee Gelada, suggestion, books, websites, publishers you mention, put in your show notes for viewers to later reference. Yes, Lee. I will do my best. I will do my best. If I forget something and you want to come back tomorrow, please add a comment to the bottom of the video. But that is a good idea. Dean, personally, I think the schism will pass. Yes, it will pass. I have opinions, but I'm not taking sides. Good. Wise, I think. It is a distraction. And yeah. Thank you, Mrs. Jess. And glad you're here with us. What jurisdiction are now? Russell, I'm not sure what your question was. I'm sorry. Joachim, what advice do you have for growing in love for the Mother of God? Joachim, I would say as often as you can to say the Akathist hymn to the Mother of God. And maybe, every now and again sing the supplicatory canon to the Mother of God. If you can find the music for both, the Russians have probably the best music for the Akathist, and then the Greeks have probably the best music for the supplicatory canon. I really like the music for the supplicatory canon. If I can find it, gosh, it's got to be online somewhere. There's a convent. It is a old calendar convent in near Boston that had a recording, which is a really beautiful version of it. But if you can find any version of the supplicatory canon, and then the text from the prayer book from the Holy Transfiguration Monastery in Boston, also old calendarist, and I don't recommend that you go and visit them, but their publications are good. Their translations are beautiful and properly set to Byzantine music. So yeah, we've been blessed with good translations, the beautiful music, and I would say, yeah, singing or at least reading the Akathist to the Mother of God, and then singing the supplicatory canon to the Mother of God as well, and then include some prayers to her every day, maybe some in addition to the Jesus prayer, Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy upon me, the sinner. You could also say, Most Holy Mother of God, save us. Yeah, and I think over time, that your affection will grow and your understanding will grow. Lorinda, how would one develop a true Orthodox phronema despite living in the U.S.? a good place to start, Lorinda, is um, is to become really attuned to judgmentalism, either within yourself or within the people around you. Whenever there's a spirit of judgment, I'm not a saint, but it's the kind of thing a saint would say. Essentially, the spirit of God can't be there if there's a spirit of judgment. We're told not to judge, and we're told to read the scripture, like all the things that Christ talks about, all the things that St. Paul talks about. How we're supposed to be. It's all there. The Orthodox phronema is the phronema of Christ. It's the phronema of St. Paul. Don't get fooled by people talking about Orthodoxy in some triumphalist way, some judgmental way. When people do that, I'm sorry, but it's not the phronema of the church. So reading the Gospels and really trying to take them to heart. In more practical ways, trying to be faithful to your local parish. Like if you have a priest you love, if you have a priest that you trust, just be obedient. Just be obedient. If it's something, if your priest asks you to do something that's obviously contrary to Scripture, then that's one thing. But 99 times out of 100, that's not the case. And as soon as you start putting yourself above your priest and your bishop, then you become a Protestant. Are there occasions in church history where that was necessary? Yeah, but they were very, 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 very far and few between. More often than not, it's a temptation from the evil one to disobey, and the fathers make it clear. The person that you're obedient to will have to respond for your obedience. So if you're obedient and what you're doing is not sinful, if there's something that's that's not quite right or whatever, God is not going to judge you for that. So I think obedience is really important in humility, and to the extent that you can be involved in church services, it's really simple. People overcomplicate. I really think people overcomplicate Orthodoxy. Fast. Do the fasts of the church. If you can't fast perfectly, talk to your priest and come up with something that you can do. Find a prayer rule that you can manage, and just be faithful to that. Be faithful in the small things, and it's in the small things that that the foundation of your spiritual life will be built. If you, like Christ says, if you can't be faithful with small things, how can you be faithful with big things? I think patience is really important. You are not going to understand Orthodoxy. I don't know where you're at in your journey, but you're not going to understand what Orthodox phronema is for a long time, like a decade, maybe longer. I was told by someone that I trust probably more than anyone else, an Orthodox monk, a priest monk, that it's common for converts to not begin to have an actual spiritual life, to not actually understand the spiritual life for 10 or 15 years. So because there's so many layers, we come with so much baggage. Like I said, we are in a matrix. We are surrounded by a culture. We are part of that culture, and we have to love. We have to love our parents and love our families and love the culture around us. But to discern what an Orthodox spiritual life looks like it's a different thing. It is like coming out of the matrix and understanding what the matrix is. And that takes a lot of time and a lot of patience and a lot of humility and obedience and virtue, building virtue day in, day out for years and years. But it's well worth it. It's the only path to life, but it's not an easy path. Υπεραγία Θεοτόκε, βοήθημε. Καλησπέρα πάνω, είστε στην Ελλάδα ή είσαι εδώ στην Αμερική. Russell, thank you for being here. God bless, good strength. Thank you for being here. Sarah, what is the difference between obedience and absolutism? How do you mean by absolutism? I'll wait for that. Ameriki. Orea. Dean Barker, what is phronema? I think Orthodoxy might have a Greek word for everything. Phronema. It's been translated different ways. Usually now people just use the word phronema like the word nous because it's kind of untranslatable. Sometimes it's translated as mindset, worldview, approach, spirit, the deep inner understanding of Orthodoxy that when the way of the church has become the way of your life. Hopefully something in there kind of approximates what Orthodox phronema is. But yeah, it's you could say Americans have the American phronema, and in order to become Orthodox, you need to put on the new man, like we read in the baptismal hymns. You put on a new man, you put on a new mind. You metania, you change your nous, you change your mind, you change your mindset, and Mrs. Jess Horst, born and raised Catholic, investigating. My children and I look forward to visiting the Orthodox Church, St. Andrews and Riverside, God willing, soon. Mrs. Jess Horst, that's a good church. That's a great community. I'm glad you're going to be able to go and visit Father Josiah. It is a beautiful church. Southern California has some other good communities. But that's one of the good ones for sure. So, yeah. Did you say that you would? I'm talking to Jess. Did you say that you were looking at my book? In case you didn't, if you want to check out Two Paths, Orthodoxy and Catholicism, yeah, you might hopefully would find that helpful. I think any Catholic who is interested in Orthodoxy should read it. So, of course, I published it, so I'm biased, but I do think that's true. So, beautiful. Well, yeah, please come again and let me know how things are going with your path to Orthodoxy. Pano, simplicity of heart, disciplined structure of your own kingdom of passions. Yep, that's all part of phronema. Lorinda, thank you so much for answering my question. Humility, obedience, and faithfulness in the small things. I've been Orthodox for 12 years, but I feel like such a neophyte. Lorinda, I've been Orthodox a lot longer than that and feel like a neophyte as well. And that's a wonderful feeling. mostly, I wish I were better. I wish I were better, but I also feel like, joy. I guess it's positive in the sense that I feel joy and inspiration and excitement at the future, at the eternal future of becoming more and more like Christ, God willing. So, but yeah, that's it. Patience, patience, patience. The Greeks will say things like hypomone ke epimone, patience and insistence or fortitude, and kali hypomone, good patience, kali dynami, good strength. These are things you hear a lot in the monasteries and in Greek parishes in Greece, and that's it. It's just you keep on slogging, and what is he who endures to the end shall be saved. So, Pano says phronema literally means state of nous or disposition. Phronema. Yeah, I was actually trying to do the etymology, and I couldn't think of the words that it's made up of. I don't see nous in there, but maybe. Sarah, I just heard one person refer to taking advice from a priest unilaterally and without question as absolutism. I haven't seen him again to ask him to clarify, so I thought I'd throw that out there. Yeah, well, if you do, ask him.